a technician who is believed to have led to the collapse of the state's crucial evidence in the Mthokozisi Ntumba murder case has been found. Earlier this week, the High Court acquitted 4 police officers charged with Ntumba's murder. The judge, Mawabo Malangeni, said that none of the 18 state witnesses could point at who pulled the trigger. Now, joining us now to talk to us about this case is a journalist who managed to locate the technician. And let's speak now to Mpho Koka, who speaks to us from Johannesburg. Mpho, good morning to you. Let's start with this technician. His name is Naresh Suredin. Talk to us about why he was such a crucial witness in this case.
Good morning, Koli. Thank you for inviting me to your program. Good morning to your viewers as well. So where we can start with this case, so on Monday, the 4th of July, 2022, so the lawyers of the 4 accused were making an application to have charges against them dropped. So whilst they were presenting their arguments, they all made the argument that the video which actually identifies the 4 accused should not be regarded or should be disregarded as evidence in this case. So during the course of the trial, when it started in January, there were 2 police officers who testified that a video was obtained from the My Clinic next to where Ntumba was killed. So in that video, the 2 police officers were able to identify these 4 accused, these 4 police officers who were accused of killing Ntumba.
Yeah.
So now, when I heard on Monday that video from the clinic, which places these 4 police officers at the crime scene, based on the testimony of these 2 police officers, I then asked myself, why was this video not played? So that's when I started discovering from the acquitted investigator in this case that actually there was a witness who was actually supposed to testify about this video, which actually places these 4 police officers at the scene.
Yeah.
So acquitted went on to say that they couldn't locate this witness, hence the video could not be played in court. So the video was never admitted in court as evidence. So that's when I asked the acquitted, okay, so what happened? Did you guys try and look for this witness? Why couldn't you locate this witness? So they mentioned that the address he gave, they searched for him for months and months and they couldn't find him. So that's when I was like, okay, so it means we have to try and find this witness based on the information that he gave to the state. In this case being a home address that he gave to them. And his evidence is crucial.
I'm sorry to cut in there. So this witness, you now set about as a journalist trying to locate him. And again, I'm going to repeat his name, Naresh Suredin. That's the technician who is understood to have this CCTV footage. How long did it take you? You're saying that the police, or at least the acquitted investigators, it took them months on end to try and locate him, and they couldn't find him. How long did it take you to find them?
Well, not actually long, like I think in less than 3 hours. So yesterday, when I went through the list of witnesses who testified in the trial, I saw his name on the list of witnesses and there was a home address he provided. So in less than 3 hours, we managed to find him, along with my colleague at the Sowetan, Tulani Mbele. So working together with him, we managed to locate him within less than 3 hours.
And when you did
we realized that.
And when you did locate him, did you find him to be someone who came across as not possibly wanting to cooperate with authorities around this case, or was he someone who was simply waiting to be contacted?
Well, actually, when we managed to find the address, we discovered that the street name that he placed on the address does not exist. So we used the house number instead to locate him. So the street name which appears on the state's list of witnesses, it doesn't exist. But the house number does exist. So when we located the house, we didn't find him there. We found relatives of his along with his wife. So we actually spoke with him telephonically. So when the family heard that we are looking for him, that's when they alerted him. Then he called the wife, and then the wife gave us a phone to speak to him. So we spoke with him telephonically. So from the conversation I had with him, like, he basically made it clear that he was never called to come and testify. He never received any summons from the courts. So he said he actually wanted to testify in this case.
Wow. And what about the NPA? Did you make any effort to talk to them about why it is that they seemingly did not make any effort? If you could find him within 3 hours of looking for him, where does that story, or what does that story about him not being found in 4 months, what does it tell us about whether or not the law enforcement authorities in South Africa were actually serious about locating him?
So on Tuesday, after they were acquitted, so when I discovered that actually there is a missing witness in this case whose testimony could have actually prevented the 4 police officers from being acquitted, so I reached out to the National Prosecuting Authority and said to them, there is a missing witness who was supposed to testify in this case. The guy could not be located. IPID says the guy could not be located. They traced him at several home addresses. They couldn't find him. So I asked the NPA, what was the difficulty in locating this person? Why couldn't you find him? What went wrong? And the response I got from the National Prosecuting Authority was, they are still studying the judgment, and they will not comment with regards to the missing witness.
My goodness. Your overall assessment about the state's attitude towards this case, what do you think has been their disposition, their outlook to this case? Is it a case that they are taking seriously, or is it one of those cases that, well, if it succeeds in court, happiness. If it doesn't, oh well, we will look into whether or not we can appeal, if appealable?
Well, from my observation, like during the start of the trial, the state, the prosecutor in the case, even the IPID investigator in the case, they showed that they were serious about this matter. They showed that they were serious about this case. But I believe there are 2 things that actually shows that like they had some weaknesses in their case, in presenting their case. So firstly, the issue of the video footage. So the fact that they could not locate Mr. Sureddin goes to show that they did not make enough efforts to try and locate him. I mean, we located him within 3 hours. They had like the whole month from last year, and they couldn't locate him. So the fact that they couldn't locate this crucial witness who had this evidence which places, or supposedly places, the 4 officers at the scene, shows that they actually did not do enough to actually find this person.
Yeah.
And secondly, there was also an issue of contamination of the scene, which the High Court judge pointed out in his judgment, that on the day of the shooting, some of the witnesses said in their testimony that they never saw any bullet cartridges next to the scene. But 2 days later, when one of the witnesses was there to reconstruct the scene, he found bullet cartridges. So then it means the police officers who were on duty, or the IPID investigators who came to the scene on Tuesday, they did not do their work in the sense of gathering all the information and gathering all the evidence that was present there at the scene. So for me, those 2 points highlight that the prosecution and the IPID did actually not make enough efforts to present a watertight case.
What you're describing to us, Mpho, is absolutely heartbreaking, particularly given the fact that there's a family that is seeking justice here. In South Africa, we all know the term bungling of cases. Do you think, based on what you have observed, that this is one of those cases where law enforcement deliberately bungled this case in order for it to collapse in court?
Well, I wouldn't say deliberately. I wouldn't say the state deliberately or intentionally bungled this case, but I would just highlight that the fact that they couldn't locate a missing witness when we were able to locate him goes to show that they actually did not try hard enough to try and present a strong case. And also the fact that when attending to the scene, the fact that they left evidence there, which was found 2 days later, goes to show that they were actually not diligent enough. They were actually not diligent enough in actually making sure that the crime scene was preserved. So I wouldn't say it was deliberately bungled, but I would say the state, they are like faults and mistakes that they made in this case.
They were just not too serious about this case. Mpho Koka, let me thank you very much for your time, and let me thank you for the work that you have done to go out of your way to actually try and piece this whole case together. Well done to you, my brother. That's Mpho Koka. He is a journalist at the Sowetan newspaper. There it is. You make up your mind about whether the state is serious about convicting such cases. And I suppose it makes it even more suspicious that it's police officers who were involved here. So, does the word bungling fit in here? You'll make up your mind.